When was the last time you watched this, Sinead?
But I think we showed it to the McCardles when we lived in Cork. So that was probably the last time.
59 kilos, the maximum permitted weight for these young women, with last year's champion, Finland's Laila Finska-Pesera, not here. We're bound to
Are you
have.
still hitting 59 kilos?
So here on the far side, 36-year-old Lisa
Oh,
Schlenker
Laila,
from
actually,
Princeton.
she just
She was
retired.
fourth last year.
No, she came back a few years later. I think she raced early in the season and didn't go so well in Seville and took the rest of the year off.
Who? Sorry?
Laila Finska, the girl who won in Zagreb, the Finnish girl.
Next to her,
Who was your biggest rival here?
Because, yeah, Pia Vogel, she had won previously, so, and I knew she had like she'd been going really well that season.
Yeah.
and Ireland, Sinead Jennings. Trains a lot.
And she beat me once in Essen, and I'd beaten her the other time. But it was a photo finish both times. So she came ahead once, and I was out ahead once.
She was world champion twice before, wasn't she?
Yeah. And she was in Switzerland, like home territory, so there was an awful lot of support for her.
Lots of cowbells.
Yeah.
Part of Holland. She was sixth last year in Zagreb, but she's coming back.
Did any of these girls go on to the tour?
So the Bulgarian girl actually went on to win in Seville. I think she set a world record, but it was a bit, there were some questions around it.
Yes, it's a non-Olympic event, but it's also very, very competitive. And, one of the best racers. She's a champion. She's a terrific sculler. One of the best qualifiers.
So like my in Zagreb the previous year, I'd gone off really hard because I knew I didn't have much of a chance of winning, but I kind of went as hard as I possibly could and then blew up quite badly and just managed to get the bronze. So then this whole year we were working on a race plan for me to go out a little bit slower and to have something left at the end. And the last World Cup before this was in Munich, and I had tried that. I'd gone out quite gently, but then I ran out of water at the end, and that was actually against Laila Finska, who just, like, if I had another 2 or 3 strokes, I would have caught her. So that was my only concern this time. I was going to stick with the same race plan, but I knew I needed to start moving on a little bit earlier in the race. So it was kind of a race of 2 halves. The first half was just going to be to get it set up, and the second half was to kind of bring it home.
So you're pretty comfortable at this point, like sitting in
Yeah,
the
so like I'm way back, and they're saying I have no chance. Yeah, like he just said, I'm not doing very well, but I was looking around going, oh my God, I'm not even trying, and I'm kind of in the pack. So I knew that it was looking good for me at this point. Like I knew the Bulgarian was a really fast starter, so I wasn't that worried about her. I was looking at Pia Vogel and Miriam Terbeek really as my 2, and Lisa Schlenker as well. Like she had a silver medal, and she was a world record holder on the erg, which is what my real goal at that point was to be world record holder on the erg, not even thinking about this. So I would have, she definitely would have been an idol for me.
It's been a characteristic all this week that very few people have come from a long way back.
So I think I was quite surprised here. I think I might have taken a little look over, and I saw that Pia Vogel was level with Miriam Terbeek, because I had assumed that Pia Vogel would be further ahead at this point.
Yeah. And you're still feeling good. Was there any point in the race where you kind of started doubting that you'd have the capacity to get through them?
Not to be like, it seems really strange, like looking at this now, being so far behind, but I wasn't really trying too hard at this point. I was just feeling really comfortable, and that's kind of way I like to race, knowing that, you know, even though I'm behind, I've still got so much left in the tank. I think once I hit the front, then you start to feel tired, and there's a little bit more pressure. So this was a really comfortable place for me to be in. I think I do a push at 750. I just did a push for 10, but that really had a big impact. And I think that's what kind of brought me up to Pia Vogel.
She does move very well and look at the strong finish of the stroke. But it is Terbeek of the Netherlands, who was just beginning to squeeze out a bit of a lead.
Yeah, I rated Pia Vogel much higher than Miriam Terbeek. So once I passed her out, I kind of felt, now this is, maybe I started to get really nervous at that point, because I was like, now it's your race to lose, even though I still wasn't in the lead.
What is it that makes this lake so special? Oh, it's a completely, it's natural.
Your coach at the time was Torney Nielsen as well.
No, it was Hamish. I was living in Scotland.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Storm, which sends everybody scurrying for the shore. But
So you were training separately to the Irish team for this match?
Yeah. I was
training separately to the Irish team.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't have any, like I didn't have very many holidays, so I had no training camp or anything before it. So I basically flew out just a few days before to join them. And my oars actually were broken on the plane on the way out. So these were brand new oars from Concept that they had to fly in from Belgium. So yeah, Thor got some credit there where he had really nothing to do with me at all. Actually thought my technique was awful at this point. He did say though, he said to Hamish, like, my technique was very rough, but that I was doing two things right. I was long and I was strong.
It was working.
Fantastic piece of power sculling by Sinead Jennings in the middle.
Well, clearly she's been trying to go at 1,000.
And it very much was that push for 20 at 1,000.
But here she goes. She's past Switzerland now.
And did that give you a real boost of confidence?
It really did. And this third 500 was probably my best 500 of the race as well.
She's got 750 meters to go, and she's got half a length to make up.
Wow, can she do it? To big though, still looking pretty solid here.
Like now I'm starting to work.
Said that, Dan. Not sure she's got an extra gear. Jennings can keep this run.
And was there ever a doubt that you would be going too early and end up running out of steam?
No. I suppose my biggest concern was like, this was just my second year of sculling, and I was always terrified of hitting a buoy or catching a crab. And I think that even more so in the last 500. Like, I move into the lead now just at 500 to go, and then I started to worry. I was like, I'm in the lead, and normally I would do my 20-20, 10-10-10 and really go for it. But all I could think of was if I catch a crab or hit a buoy, like, all this is for nothing. So I didn't really wind for the line at all. So I kind of just tried to stay long and strong. But then, like, coming into those last 30 strokes, it did look like Miriam Terbeek was coming back on me. And I was kind of, oh my God, you know, it was actually it was very difficult to wind at that stage.
Do you think you were kind of in your own zone, or you were very aware of, like, when you were, the moment you were ahead and where
I think I was very much just being so careful that I was in my own zone and not really watching anyone else. Because yeah, I remember, like, after I crossed the line, I wasn't even positive if I'd won or not, because I'd just been kind of aware of her really starting to come back.
Third quarter, that was pretty good, but she's still moving fast, and she's the fastest sculler on the course at the moment, and now she's got half going for 2 quarters.
So that was kind of just staying like my race pace, I think, rather than the sprint.
It's just a question of whether Sinead is going to run out of gas before that line comes.
That's a big sliding back too. She's raised it. She's found something else.
Yeah, she definitely did start to come back here.
38 strokes a minute, 39. She's fighting.
And I'm probably still at 33.
You weren't panicking at all. You just
just thinking about make sure you don't do anything stupid.
Jennings is going to give this one up. She really wants it. And this is going to be a famous day,
but
because I don't remember.
I know, like, when I cross the line now, I don't know if I've won or not. And I'm kind of looking around trying to figure it out. And then I look up at the big screen and I see myself on screen. And I'm like, well, I must have won. But I kind of just do this wave just to, like, not look like a bad loser. Or it was like a nondescript kind of, this could be coming second or having one wave. And then the time went up and it was like, whoa. The next time it come back to me, it's a bit more. So, like, to me it didn't seem like 1.2 seconds. It seemed like a much smaller gap. I've got better at judging gaps since then.
And there, right up until that point, Sinead was fighting to get back on terms with Terbeek of the Netherlands, who was sculling very well, very nicely. But when Sinead got through her, she sagged a little bit, but then found something to bring her back to keep her ahead of Kim Berger at the end.
There is Sinead positively bursting with happiness, so she should be. And every reason to expect that she's going to improve and defend that title at next year's World Championships in Seville. And I wonder whether there might be, Dan, another good lightweight in
Had your parents made it out?
That's you. Is there another good lightweight in Ireland?
10 years later, or even longer, Jesus. There. Okay, cool. I have some questions you can follow up on. So, do you think your mentality going out to that race was that you expected you were going to win? Like, do you feel like you were bursting with confidence that it was yours to lose?
No, I don't think I was quite at that stage. Like, I knew going into that regatta that there was a really good chance of 3 gold medals, that Sam was like a definite, the pair had a pretty good chance, and like I was in with a chance. I would have been very disappointed if I didn't come home with a medal, and I knew if I did things right on the day that I could win it, but I don't think I had the track record behind me that the others did coming into it. I had a really good race in Vienna that year, which gave me a lot of confidence in that I raced Constanța Brăciță, and she was double Olympic champion in the double, and she just came out of nowhere, hadn't even entered the regatta, and just was in my lane for the race and had beaten me in the heat. And then in the final, there was a massive headwind. It was a 10-minute race, and we pegged each other the whole way down. I had maybe a canvas on her the whole 2K, and I held that, and I beat her by a canvas. And that did give me an awful lot of confidence, because if, you know, she was definitely the best rower in the world in my mind. She was talking about a comeback and didn't make a comeback after Vienna. And I remember Hamish telling me at that stage that that was her world championship, and it was mine to lose now, that I'd kind of knocked her off. I'd already started my final in the world by having beaten her at that point. But I think that did give me a huge amount of confidence. But I came into that race having been beaten at the third World Cup, you know, still working on my race plan. So yeah, I knew if I got things right on the day, I had a chance.
Yeah. So what would you say your mentality was then pre-race going out in the water? Is it just focusing on your race plan rather than the outcome?
Yeah, very much focusing my race plan and really sticking to it, because I'd had good races throughout the regatta, and I knew that if I just did the same thing again, that it was working much better than previously, like the previous World Cup. I was starting to make my move earlier, like that move at the 750 gone was quite a big push to get me back in with the rest of the field. It didn't really matter where I was until that push, and that had to get me back to the rest of the field at that point. So that was very much my focus. Like, don't go bananas, just make sure that you're there at the 750.
So early on in the race, you're down a bit, but you're still within the pack. But was there any point during the race where you kind of questioned your ability to come back and get through the other scullers?
Yeah, I suppose I expected to be further back in the first 500. Like, they talk in the commentary about how far back I am and how bad a day I'm having. But to me, I looked around and I felt I was about a length down, or maybe a length, well, probably 2 lengths down, whereas I expected to be 3 lengths down at that stage. So I kind of felt I'd moved well with the field with very little effort. So I was really happy. I don't think I questioned anything until that last 500 when I got into the lead. I had more time to think. And that's when I started to worry, as opposed to, worry about making a mistake, because everything had been going so well for me.
And do you think that is key to basically achieving the goal on the day, is the mentality during your race? Like, have you had a race basically where you do start doubting yourself during the race and that it's affected the outcome?
Definitely. Like, I think if I plan to go out hard and I don't hit the lead at 500, then I start worrying. So I think my race plan was a much lower risk strategy. You know, I had nothing to, you know, I wouldn't feel bad because I planned to be behind. So that took a lot of the pressure off and gave me a chance to get into my own rhythm. Whereas the races that I have really tried to go for it, I'm kind of banging it in. I'm not giving myself a chance to get the rhythm because there's a lot of pressure on straight away to get that lead.
So you prefer to nearly go out just a little bit more conservative and then leave yourself,
Yeah.
get into it, and then.
Yeah, I think especially in the single, like as you know, in the double, it is nicer. It's harder to change gears that quickly, and it is nicer to be up and to see the other crews. But definitely in the single, I'm quite happy to sit back a little bit.
And then finally, going into that race, do you feel like you were in the perfect form of your life? Do you think like everything had gone right that led you to be a world champion? Or were there any things in the run up that, you know, could have thrown you off? Was it the
No, I'd
perfect?
had a really good run up. Like the year before, I had a small injury where I couldn't sit in the boat before the World Cups and I had to race without a warm up. But I didn't miss very many days of training. Like I was working full time, so I had quite a low training load, which meant that I didn't get injured. So things had gone very well. My only problem maybe that year was the fact that I had 2 months where the canal in Edinburgh was frozen, where I wasn't able to get on the water. And even when we travelled over to Strathclyde Park to the 2K course, like half of that was frozen as well. But Hamish, my coach, had such a good way of training my mentality. He was like, this is brilliant because we did so much work last year in the boat. We need more time on the erg this year. So this is really going to make you stronger. And I believed everything he said. So I felt like that I was in the best possible form. My oars, which he again made out were really, really important, that I had my own proper oars. So I even took them on the plane with me rather than sending them with the boat. So I'd have them for a bit longer. And they ended up arriving in about 1,000 pieces. They were late and I held off all day going training. Sam had offered me his oars, but Hamish was like, no, she needs to row with her own oars. We'll wait till hers arrive. And then the day before, they still hadn't arrived. So I ended up borrowing Sam's oars. The day of the heat, though, Concept 2 managed to get a set in from Belgium for me. But even all of that, Hamish just managed to put a spin on it. You know, this is great now, brand new oars. Whereas before he would be telling me, oh no, the oars need to be well worn in before you start to race with them. But he'd, you know, change on, this is really good. You know, you've got the top oars. And so I felt everything I was, like, I believed that I was in the best possible position to do my best performance.
And when you watch that race now, do you think you still get the same excitement? Does it still bring back like the thrill of back in 2001?
Yeah, absolutely, most definitely. I just love the bit where I start to come through and I can still remember that feeling of, oh my God, you know, it was just, there was a lot of trust in Hamish's plan and in my plan that it would work. And really, I could see it working as I was coming past people and feeling so strong. And they were, I didn't even feel maybe that there was more that they were dropping off and I was pushing through. Such an amazing feeling, yeah.
No, it's fab. Well done, Sinead. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.